Do you often ask yourself whether the person next to you truly cares about you, especially after noticing repeated unusual behavior? I've been there, and it's deeply unsettling. Let me share a story that might resonate with you. I had a friend I thought was like a brother. We had shared countless evenings dreaming about our careers and built joyful memories with our families. But as time passed and life pulled us in different directions, new jobs, cities, families, things started to change. What was once a relationship of mutual care and support became painfully one-sided. I found myself always reaching out first, always offering encouragement, and being there when they needed someone. But when it was my turn to lean on them, they were distant, uninterested, or worse, absent. It felt draining, like carrying a load that wasn't mine to bear. I began to question, was this a real friendship, or was I just being used? It's not always easy to face the truth about our relationships, but recognizing these signs is the first step toward protecting your peace and reclaiming your energy. In this video, we'll uncover 6 toxic behaviors that reveal whether someone in your life doesn't truly care about you. Most importantly, I'll share how Stoic principles can guide you to handle these situations with wisdom and strength. Have you ever wondered why certain relationships leave you feeling so drained? Let's explore together. Your insights could inspire others to find clarity and strength. 1. Lack of genuine presence. One of the most obvious signs of this change, and the one that bothered me the most, was the lack of real presence in our interactions. Conversations that used to feel alive, filled with care and mutual understanding, began to feel hollow. It's not just about words, it's about the energy behind them, the kind of focus that shows someone truly values your time. I remember the day I told my best friend about my son's college graduation. It was a huge milestone for our family, the culmination of years of effort, late nights, and countless sacrifices. I expected him to share in my joy, even in a small way. Instead, he barely reacted, offering a disinterested grunt before steering the conversation to his weekend plans. It didn't stop there. A few weeks later, he asked me casually if my son was still in high school. That moment wasn't just hurtful, it was revealing. When people fail to be present, they're sending a clear message. What matters to you doesn't matter to them. At first, I brushed it off as forgetfulness, but as these instances piled up, I realized the problem wasn't memory. It was priority. The mutual respect and care that once defined our relationship had eroded. This realization was painful, but it brought clarity. I began to see how often I had been fully present for him, remembering his struggles, celebrating his victories, only to receive indifference in return. I had invested in a relationship that had become one-sided, and it was draining me emotionally. In Stoic philosophy, relationships are meant to be reciprocal. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of living in harmony with others, but he also emphasized recognizing what is within our control. You cannot force someone to value your presence or pay attention to what matters to you. However, you can control your response to their behavior and decide where to focus your energy. When faced with a lack of presence, it's tempting to internalize the disappointment, to think there's something wrong with you. But Stoicism teaches us to separate what is ours from what belongs to others. Their inability to be present reflects their character, not your worth. This distinction is essential for maintaining inner peace. I learned to accept my friend's behavior for what it was, a reflection of his changing priorities, not a measure of my value. Instead of holding on to resentment, I chose to focus on building relationships with those who demonstrated genuine care. This wasn't an act of bitterness, it was an act of self-respect. Stoic wisdom reminds us to practice apatheia, freedom from emotional disturbance. When you let go of unrealistic expectations and focus on what you can control, you free yourself from unnecessary pain. This doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means acknowledging it without letting it consume you. In this situation, I stopped initiating conversations and simply observed. Would he reach out? Would he make an effort? Over time, his absence spoke volumes. I didn't confront him with anger or accusations. I simply adjusted my actions to reflect the reality of the relationship. Relationships built on mutual care and respect energize you, while one-sided connections drain you. It's not selfish to protect your peace. It's necessary. By setting boundaries and redirecting your energy, you create space for meaningful connections to flourish. Ultimately, presence is a choice. Those who value you will make the effort to show it, not with grand gestures, but with consistent attention and care. And when someone fails to do so, you have the power to choose how much of your time and heart you're willing to invest. Protect your energy, value your peace, and prioritize relationships that nourish your soul. 2. Dismissing opinions and downplaying successes. Have you ever voiced your thoughts or celebrated an achievement only to be met with indifference or even a dismissive remark? It's one of the clearest signs that someone doesn't truly value you. This behavior isn't just rude, it's emotionally draining and subtly undermines your confidence. It reflects more about them than it does about you. Insecurities, jealousy, or a need to feel superior often drive such reactions. In my family, we have these gatherings where everyone shares updates about their lives, career moves, personal milestones, or even small wins. But there's always that one person, my uncle, who manages to sour the moment. When I share my thoughts in discussions or mention a professional accomplishment, he brushes it aside, often pivoting the focus to himself. A few months ago, my cousin had just wrapped up a major project at work. At a family party, he eagerly shared his success, clearly proud of the effort he had put in. But my uncle, instead of acknowledging the achievement, smirked and said, "It must be luck. Anyone in that position could have done the same." The air in the room changed. You could see the excitement drain from my cousin's face. This kind of behavior cuts deeper than it seems. Dismissing someone's opinions or successes not only devalues their effort, but can also leave lasting doubts about their worth. For a moment, you wonder if their words are true, if your achievement was just luck. But here's the truth. Their dismissiveness isn't a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of their insecurities. Stoicism teaches us that our sense of worth should never hinge on the approval or opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." When someone downplays your success, their words have no power unless you let them. I've learned to respond with calmness and composure. When my uncle makes dismissive remarks, I take a deep breath and remind myself that my efforts and achievements stand on their own merit. I no longer feel the need to justify or defend myself. Instead, I focus on what truly matters, knowing that my hard work brings real results. It's important to stay grounded in moments like these. Recognize their behavior for what it is, a projection of their insecurities. By detaching emotionally from their comments, you maintain control over your peace of mind. This doesn't mean ignoring their words entirely, but rather choosing not to let them define your feelings. In these situations, I've also found it helpful to subtly steer the conversation back to encouragement. When my cousin shared his success and my uncle made that remark, I responded calmly. Luck or not, it takes skill and effort to complete a project like that. It's no small achievement. This simple acknowledgement shifted the tone, validating my cousin's hard work without escalating the negativity. Over time, I realized that trying to seek approval or validation from people like my uncle is futile. Instead, I focus on nurturing relationships with those who genuinely celebrate my wins. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, their support becomes a powerful counterbalance to any negativity. The Stoic path isn't about letting others walk over you. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to let go. Protect your inner peace by valuing your efforts and not allowing the opinions of others to cloud your achievements. In the end, their dismissal is their burden to carry, not yours. 3. Only around when they need something and draining energy. Have you ever noticed that some people only reach out when they need something? Help with work, advice on relationships, or financial support? These interactions often leave you feeling drained and empty, as if the relationship revolves entirely around their needs. It's a cycle that can quietly wear you down, making you question the value of the connection. I once had an old friend who used to call me only in moments of crisis. One night she called me in tears, distraught over yet another argument with her partner. "This time, it's over," she sobbed, recounting every detail of how bad things had gotten. For hours, I listened and offered comfort, trying my best to help her feel supported and understood. The next morning, I called to check in, genuinely concerned about how she was doing. No answer. I tried again later that day, and still nothing. It wasn't until a week later that I found out she and her partner had reconciled that very morning, while I was still trying to reach her. That moment left me feeling used. It wasn't just about her going back to her partner. It was the realization that my energy and time were only valuable to her when she was in distress. The Stoics remind us that our energy and time are precious resources, not to be given away carelessly. Epictetus taught, "Know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly." In relationships, this means recognizing your value and understanding when a connection is one-sided. When people repeatedly drain your energy without offering anything in return, whether it's emotional support, mutual respect, or even gratitude, it's a clear sign to reevaluate the relationship. Stoicism encourages us to set boundaries, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. Your peace and well-being should never be sacrificed to maintain a connection that only takes without giving back. In situations like this, the first step is awareness. Reflect on the patterns in your relationships. Are you always the one giving while the other person takes? Do they disappear when you need support? Recognizing this imbalance is essential to protecting your energy. Next, consider how you respond. Stoicism emphasizes controlling your reactions rather than trying to change others. Instead of confronting my friend with frustration, I chose to step back. I stopped being readily available every time she called, and instead focused on nurturing relationships that brought balance and positivity into my life. When you establish boundaries, some people may react poorly. They might accuse you of being cold or unkind, but as the Stoics teach, their reaction is not your burden to carry. Your responsibility is to honor your limits and maintain your inner peace. Finally, remember that relationships should energize, not exhaust you. Genuine connections are built on reciprocity, both people giving and receiving, supporting and uplifting one another. If someone's presence consistently leaves you feeling depleted, it's worth considering whether their place in your life is truly serving your well-being. I learned that while it's natural to want to help those we care about, there's a difference between offering support and being taken for granted. Stoicism teaches us to act with kindness, but not at the expense of our peace. By setting clear boundaries and prioritizing healthy relationships, we can create space for connections that truly nourish our souls. When you encounter people who only come around when they need something, take a step back and evaluate the relationship. Are they genuinely invested in your life, or are they using you as a resource? Protect your energy, value your time, and invest in relationships that leave you feeling valued, not drained. 4. Guilt tripping. One of the most emotionally draining behaviors you can encounter is guilt tripping. It's subtle but effective, making you feel responsible for someone else's unmet expectations or poor choices. Often it happens when you've set a boundary or refused to help for a valid reason, and yet you're left feeling like the bad person in the situation. This tactic preys on your sense of kindness and fairness, turning your good intentions into a source of emotional manipulation. I remember a time when a relative asked me for money. This wasn't the first time, and it was never about necessities. It was always for entertainment, dining out, or other luxuries. In the past, I had lent him money multiple times, each time with the promise that he'd pay it back. He never did. When he came to me again, I finally said no, explaining that I couldn't support his habits any longer. His response was swift and sharp. "I guess family doesn't mean much to you after all." Another instance happened with a colleague whose car had broken down. One morning, I agreed to give her a ride to work because she had no other options. The next day, she called me again, but I was unable to help due to other commitments. Instead of understanding, she scolded me. "You made me late. If you couldn't pick me up, why did you even offer in the first place?" These moments stung, not because of my decisions, but because of the way my actions, or lack thereof, were twisted into faults. Their words were designed to make me feel guilty for prioritizing my boundaries and responsibilities. And for a time, it worked. Stoicism teaches us that guilt, when undeserved, is a burden we should not carry. Epictetus reminds us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The actions of others, whether they involve guilt tripping, manipulation, or blaming, are beyond your control. What you can control is how you respond to them. In these situations, it's essential to maintain clarity and perspective. When someone tries to guilt you into compliance, take a step back and assess the validity of their claims. Ask yourself, was my decision reasonable and fair? Was their reaction based on genuine concern, or was it a way to manipulate me? If your intentions were genuine and your decision was made with respect for both yourself and the other person, you have no reason to feel guilty. Their attempts to project their frustrations onto you are not your responsibility to bear. So how to handle guilt tripping wisely? When my relative accused me of not caring about family, I took a moment to reflect. I reminded myself that my refusal to lend money was not an act of selfishness, but a necessary boundary to protect myself from being taken advantage of. Instead of engaging in a heated argument, I calmly explained my perspective. I've always tried to help when I could, but I've noticed this pattern is not sustainable for either of us. I care about you, but I also need to be fair to myself. With my colleague, I realized that her frustration stemmed from the unmet expectations she had placed on me. Instead of reacting defensively, I acknowledged her feelings but stood firm. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I could only help that one time. I hope you're able to find another solution. Stoicism teaches us to respond with rationality, not emotion. By staying calm and composed, you not only protect your inner peace, but also prevent the situation from escalating. Over time, those who rely on guilt as a tactic will realize that it holds no power over you. Remember, setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of self-respect. You are not obligated to meet every demand or fulfill every expectation, especially when it comes at the cost of your well-being. True care and respect in relationships come with understanding and mutual support, not manipulation or guilt. In the end, the freedom you gain by releasing undeserved guilt far outweighs the temporary discomfort of standing your ground. Let Stoic wisdom guide you. Honor your boundaries, respond with clarity, and protect your peace. 5. Unreliable and breaking promises. Few things can shake your trust in someone more than their failure to keep promises. Whether it's a missed commitment, an unfulfilled word, or an outright lie, these patterns leave you feeling taken advantage of and questioning the value of the relationship. Trust isn't built on grand gestures, but on small, consistent actions. When someone repeatedly breaks that trust, it erodes the foundation of any meaningful connection. I remember planning a trip with a group of friends, a getaway we had talked about for months. Everyone seemed excited, and we agreed on the dates, destinations, and activities. But on the morning of departure, the messages started rolling in. I can't make it. Something came up, or worse, silence. Their excuses felt flimsy, but I shrugged it off and tried to be understanding. Later, I found out through social media that they had gone on a different trip, together. No explanations, no apologies, just the realization that I had been left out. The sting wasn't just in their broken promises, but in the blatant disregard for my trust and feelings. This isn't an isolated experience. Many of us have dealt with unreliable people in our lives. Colleagues who promise to take on a task but leave you to pick up the slack, or friends who swear they'll be there when you need them but vanish when the time comes. It's not just disappointing, it's exhausting. The Stoics teach us that trust is a precious commodity, one that should not be given freely to those who fail to value it. Marcus Aurelius emphasized focusing only on what is within our control. Your actions, your words, your decisions. You can't force others to be reliable, but you can choose how much weight you place on their promises. When someone consistently breaks their word, it's a reflection of their character, not yours. It's easy to let frustration or hurt dictate your response, but Stoicism reminds us to approach such situations with rationality. Don't let their unreliability become a source of ongoing disappointment. Instead, adjust your expectations to align with reality. In my situation, I learned to take a step back. Rather than confronting my friends with anger, I chose to let the incident guide my future decisions. I no longer included them in plans that required mutual effort or trust. This wasn't an act of bitterness, it was an act of self-preservation. Imagine a colleague repeatedly assuring you they'll handle a task but failing every time. Instead of relying on their word, you adapt by preparing contingencies or assigning the task to someone dependable. Similarly, in personal relationships, if a friend habitually cancels plans, don't plan around them. Keep your expectations grounded and your trust guarded. This doesn't mean cutting people off at the first mistake. Everyone falters occasionally. But when a pattern of broken promises emerges, it's a sign to reassess the relationship. Stoicism teaches us to approach these moments not with resentment, but with wisdom. Recognize the behavior for what it is and act accordingly. By managing your expectations, you protect yourself from unnecessary pain. Trust those who have proven themselves reliable and let the rest fall away naturally. When you do this, you create space for relationships built on mutual respect and dependability. I've learned that broken promises aren't always personal. Sometimes they stem from the other person's lack of discipline or priorities, but their reasons don't change the impact on you. By staying grounded in your principles and valuing your own time and energy, you can navigate these situations with grace and composure. Trust is earned through actions, not words. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when they consistently show they cannot be relied upon, accept it without anger. Focus instead on building relationships that uplift and support you. That's the Stoic way. 6. Gossiping and backstabbing. Few things cut as deeply as betrayal through gossip. When someone you trust spreads falsehoods or mocks you behind your back, it's more than hurtful. It's a violation of the loyalty and respect that hold relationships together. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the words or actions of others, but we can control how we respond to them. Understanding this is the first step toward protecting your inner peace. I once experienced this firsthand at a class reunion. It was meant to be a joyous occasion, reconnecting with people I had shared so many years with. As the evening wore on, I stepped out of the main room and accidentally overheard a group of old friends talking. They were discussing personal matters about me and my family, speculating that my wife and I were having problems and preparing for divorce. None of it was true. Their laughter, their mocking tone, it was as though they took pleasure in fabricating a story about my life. At that moment, anger and disbelief washed over me. These were people I had once trusted, people I thought would respect me. Hearing their words felt like a blow to my dignity. But instead of bursting into the room and confronting them, I chose to step away. I reminded myself of a Stoic principle. The opinions of others do not define who you are. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of staying rooted in your values, regardless of how others behave. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom is especially relevant when dealing with gossip and backstabbing. When people spread falsehoods about you, it's easy to feel hurt, angry, or even vengeful. But these emotions only give power to their actions. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what truly matters, our integrity. You are not defined by the rumors others spread, but by how you respond to them. After hearing the gossip at the reunion, I chose not to let it control my evening. Instead of confronting them in anger, I took time to reflect. Was their behavior disappointing? Absolutely. But their words were a reflection of their character, not mine. By walking away, I preserved my peace and avoided a confrontation that would have only fueled the negativity. Later, I addressed the matter directly but calmly with the individuals involved. I clarified the truth about my personal life without allowing their actions to provoke me. This approach, rooted in Stoic principles, allowed me to maintain my dignity while setting boundaries. In similar situations, the key is to act, not react. Avoid impulsive responses driven by anger or hurt. Instead, approach the situation with composure. If the gossip is causing harm, address it directly but calmly. Use this opportunity to reaffirm your own values and demonstrate resilience. Stoicism also teaches us to evaluate the people we surround ourselves with. If someone repeatedly betrays your trust through gossip, it's a clear sign to reconsider their place in your life. True friends and allies will respect your privacy and protect your reputation, even when you're not around. At the same time, practice acceptance. Gossip often stems from insecurity, jealousy, or a need for validation. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but allows you to detach emotionally. When you stop taking their words personally, you reclaim your power. In the end, I chose to focus on the relationships that brought positivity into my life. The reunion taught me a valuable lesson. Not everyone who smiles with you is genuinely in your corner, and that's okay. Letting go of those who don't align with your values creates space for meaningful, supportive connections. Remember, you cannot control the tongues of others, but you can control how much weight you give to their words. Protect your peace, hold on to your dignity, and rise above the noise. That's the Stoic way. Life is a series of choices, and the relationships we nurture play a vital role in shaping who we are. Throughout this journey, we've explored behaviors that reveal when someone doesn't truly care about you. From dismissing your achievements, to breaking promises, from gossiping to draining your energy, each behavior serves as a reminder of the importance of protecting your peace and setting boundaries. The wisdom of Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, our reactions, our values, and the energy we invest in others. It challenges us to reflect deeply, to recognize when a connection no longer serves our well-being, and to approach these realizations with both clarity and strength. Now the question is, how will you take these lessons and apply them to your life? Start small. Begin by observing your relationships. Are they reciprocal? Do they uplift you or drain you? The answers to these questions will guide you toward healthier connections and a more peaceful life. Each day presents an opportunity to practice what we've discussed. Let go of resentment, set firm boundaries, and surround yourself with people who value and respect you. Remember, your worth is not determined by others' opinions or actions, but by your own integrity and choices. If you found value in these lessons, I encourage you to make this practice a part of your daily life. Share your experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you've navigated similar challenges. Every step you take toward protecting your peace is a step closer to the life you deserve. Choose wisely and let Stoic wisdom guide your way.